Hi guys, I'm confused and perhaps you will be after this interview too. So Hilary Benn, who's likely to be the next Northern Ireland Secretary of State and perhaps having the most important job in his career, was asked what criteria he would need in order to call a border poll on a united Ireland. Now, under the rules of the Good Friday Agreement, it's the job of the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland to call such a poll. However, the criteria is a little vague. It just says whenever there's a majority in support of a constitutional change. The common thinking is that this would be related to regular polling. However, Benn poured cold water on such an idea.
Tell us what criteria you would use to make that decision.
In the end, it is a political judgment by the Secretary of State. Now, the people who wrote the Belfast Good Friday Agreement debated long and hard, and every word, every sentence, every paragraph was carefully considered. And they came to the conclusion that the way to answer the very fair question you put. Now, personally, I think it's, as Keir Starmer said, it's not even on the horizon at the moment, because insofar as there are indications of what public opinion is in Northern Ireland, there is no evidence at all that there would be a majority. So that is for the future. But it is a political judgment. And the alternative, Mark, is for somebody to say, right, it's going to be based on 5 polls over 4 months by 3 reputable companies showing a lead of X percent over what period. You cannot take a decision on that basis because, apart from anything else, people will then focus on, well, how can we shape the polls that are going to be called upon?
So this makes a lot of sense. The idea of binning the idea, whether you agree with it or not, I do think it makes political sense. And I'll explain in a moment why. The idea of, look, we're not going to focus on polling, because polls can be manipulated, polls can be shaped to answer whatever question you want asked. So in this sense, it doesn't make a lot of sense to go with polling. And who sets the criteria? The Secretary of State would set the criteria, okay, 5 polls over a period of time, and there has to be a percentage of majority, because people are going to argue over that. But instead, I think what he's suggesting, now, he hasn't come out and said it, so I'm reading between the lines here, but I think what he's suggesting is, well, there would be a vote in the Northern Ireland Assembly. And this would make perfect sense for Keir Starmer and for Hilary Benn, or whoever succeeds Hilary Benn, because it's probably not going to happen immediately. So they can say, look, this is Northern Ireland deciding. This is Northern Ireland's politicians deciding. This is not Keir Starmer deciding. This is not Hilary Benn deciding. Because they don't want to be responsible or seen to be responsible for ending the union. Because it is the job at the end of the day of the Secretary of State to decide whether to trigger a poll or not. And he's not going to, as he said here, he's not going to focus on polling, but he's going to instead focus on some political decision. And for me, it makes sense that the decision would be a vote in the Northern Ireland Assembly. And the political parties can decide which way they want to go. Do they want to support a border poll, or are they against a border poll? That would be the vote. And the public would vote for political parties based on that criteria. So it's probably not going to be something that's going to happen anytime soon, perhaps at the end of the next Parliament. This is just my speculation. I don't know whether this is true or not. But once again, it allows Hilary Benn and Keir Starmer to wash their hands of the situation. And I don't mean this in a negative way. It allows them to offload responsibility onto the Northern Ireland the Northern Ireland Assembly. So they would say, look, do we want a border poll? Yes, we do. There's a majority in the Northern Ireland Assembly for a border poll. And then Hilary Benn would say, well, look, the people of Northern Ireland have decided, let's have a border poll. And it gets him out of a situation where he's seen to be picking and choosing, or him enforcing his will on Northern Ireland or the people of Northern Ireland. So this is, I think, would be a clever approach, not to rely on polling, which can be manipulated, but to rely on a vote, a clear, simple vote in the Northern Ireland Assembly. And this is where you would see the Alliance Party holding significant sway, because it's possible the vote would be split 50-50 between nationalist and unionist, and then it would be the Alliance Party who would decide. And and it seems a lot of them, they're not completely behind one way or the other, but it's looking more and more likely that the Alliance Party would support a border poll. And then, of course, Hilary Benn would step in and say, yes, we're going to have a border poll. This is speculation on my side. I don't know whether this is exactly what he's thinking, but it would get him out of a lot of problems. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.